What's up, you guys? Today I'm going to be talking about how to craft a winning home selling strategy. If you've been following my videos, you know that in our last market update, I did tell you that despite what some of the numbers are saying, it is appearing to feel somewhat like a balanced market given the current climate here in our Reno Sparks housing market. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that right now, but go ahead and watch the August market recap so you can understand what I'm talking about. And without further ado, I'm going to dive right on in. In a balanced market, you do need to have a winning strategy if you're not only going to list, but also sell your home. I'm going to give you everything that you need to know in order to do that. So make sure you stay with me. The first and most important thing we're going to talk about today is your pricing strategy. There are a lot of ways to kind of think about this, but one thing is for sure, and that is that you do not want to overprice your listing. If you do that, what ends up happening is it sits on the market, your home becomes stigmatized, and people start to wonder what is wrong with it. People start seeing all the price reductions that are inevitably going to have to happen in order to sell it, and then that sense of what is wrong with this house becomes amplified. So that's the first thing that you really want to avoid. Here are some things that should factor into a pricing strategy. First of all, you're going to want to make sure that your agent is doing appropriate market research. They're going to want to be looking at the right kind of comps. So recently sold homes are part of that, but what I think is even more important is to make sure your agent's looking at what is actually pending or under contract currently when you're thinking about listing your home, because that's going to tell you the most recent snapshot of, what the market is deeming the market value for similar homes to yours. So make sure that you're looking at pending sales. If your agent can go in and take the extra step and call the listing agent on those homes and see what they actually went under contract for, that will be helpful information as well, because if you didn't know, the MLS is just going to tell you what the asking price is. It's not going to tell you until that escrow closes what the actual sold price was. So you're going to want to make sure, if you're able to get that information to help frame your reference for what your home should be listed at. Another thing you're going to want to consider is pricing psychology. And we see this a lot in retail. For example, pricing a home at $500,000 versus pricing it at $499,000 has very different implications in the psyche for whatever reason. So you're going to want to think about being strategic in that way. There's also the fact that when people sort listings by price, they have kind of their top number in mind. So let's just say, that their lender said they can't go over $500,000. So they're going to end their search right there. So anything just over, even if it's 505, that's not going to populate when they search up to 500,000. So you're going to want to really think strategically about that and have your agent help you. Another thing you're going to want to consider with your pricing strategy is maybe being a bit adjustable. Now, once you start having showings, you're going to start to get feedback from potential buyers, from other agents. And if you are consistently hearing it's overpriced, or you're starting to get offers that are above what you're asking, maybe you need to go higher. But in any event, you should be prepared to be a bit flexible with your pricing. Now, another thing you're going to want to have your agent do is to look at competitive comparables. So not just what has sold and what's under contract, but also look at listings that are currently active in the MLS that are similar, because that's going to kind of give you a barometer of what people are asking for that is similar to a property like yours. So that can also be very useful information. For example, if the house next door to yours is listed $10,000 below your house and the two homes are very similar, it's really going to make it difficult for you to get a buyer in there. And the last thing you can do to help with your pricing strategy is to offer incentives. A lot of times you'll see closing credits offered, or just buyer credits, general credits that can be used for other things. Rate buy downs are really common in this climate. So just think about a few ways that you can kind of entice a buyer to choose your home over other homes. Okay, the next thing that we are going to talk about are your marketing techniques. You have to have an agent in this market who is a marketing ninja, and you don't want the agent who's going to show up and do crappy cell phone photos. You guys, it is so bad, and I see it all the time, and I'm like, how are these people getting these listings? There's literally the craziest photos on our MLS sometimes. But anyway, professional photography is a must. It's non-negotiable. Your listing agent should be paying for that, and that is part of why we charge commissions, right? So we cover the cost of marketing your home in exchange for the opportunity to be the agent who's selling your home. So keep that in mind. With that, you're going to want to make sure that your agent has access to get your home a lot of online exposure. So that's obviously in the MLS, which syndicates to Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia, all the other platforms where people search for homes, Redfin. But you're also going to want to make sure that they are skilled at social media, and social media marketing perhaps could be part of it. You could run some advertising campaigns on Facebook and Google or whatnot. But just make sure that you have an agent that understands how all of these platforms work in order to get the most eyeballs on your listing and the most foot traffic. Virtual tours have become super important, and also Matterport photography is really important these days. They do it with photography where they can get an aerial view, but it's 3-dimensional of your whole home, and people can click from point to point and kind of walk through the home. It's really cool, but this helps especially remote buyers who, if you didn't know, I work with a lot of remote buyers given that I'm here on the YouTube, and it just really helps them understand what the space is really like. So that is something that's very valuable, especially if your listing is poised to attract a remote buyer. Video marketing, you really can't escape it at this point in time. You have to have an agent who's comfortable with capturing footage for reels, getting reels edited, maybe getting some professional videographer into the mix where they can actually make a really smooth edit of your video. That's going to also help people to understand what the space is like and either entice them to come see it in person or even purchase the home remotely. Open houses can be an effective way to get a lot of foot traffic in your home, so you're going to want to have an agent who's willing to do that, or at least an agent who has team members who are willing to step in and host those for you as well. And of course, you never want to forget the power of network marketing. So if your agent has a large network of qualified buyers, that is a huge asset when you're choosing who should be listing your home. And the third thing we're going to talk about is staging your home and some tips to make sure that it looks its absolute best for all the buyers who are sure to come. First of all, you're going to want to declutter. Get rid of all your trinkets, as many of your personal belongings as possible. The goal here is to make this as clean and blank as possible so that when a buyer walks in, they are able to envision their life there and not yours. Of course, with staging, you can also aim to sell a specific lifestyle, but we're going to get into that, so stay with me. As far as decor, you're going to want to keep things very neutral, and I'm talking not just about the theme of your decor, but also the color palette. We don't want any crazy accents because that may not appeal to everyone. And again, you're aiming for the buyer to envision their life in your home. You're definitely going to want to consider curb appeal because first impressions really matter in dating, but also in real estate. So you're going to want to make sure you spend a little bit of time and care and energy in making the first impression count. There are little tricks you can do, such as putting some potted plants near the entry. You can also freshly paint your front door, and that is one scenario where a bold color actually is better. So that's a little trick that you can use, especially if the rest of the exterior is in need of a little TLC. A freshly painted bold color door can kind of draw the eye away from the rest of the chaos. You definitely also want to bring in as much natural light as possible, and in places where that isn't possible, you're going to want to supplement it with more lights, maybe some more modern lighting fixtures. That's a pretty cheap upgrade you can make to your home without breaking the bank. You can change out some of the more dated lighting fixtures for some newer ones that you can find just at Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever for $100. Now, if all of this stuff sounds a little overwhelming, or you just don't have the time, or maybe life is requiring you to make a quick move, you can always hire a professional stager, and your listing agent should have access to several of those for you. So make sure to inquire about that. Another thing you're really going to want to consider are the negotiations around the entire transaction. You're going to want to make sure that you have an agent in your corner who's very skilled at negotiating. The first thing that may help with this is to understand the buyer's motivation, right? Like, what is compelling people to want to buy in this market? All things considered, it's tough out there right now. Interest rates are high, prices are climbing, inventory is still limited. So the people who are out there playing ball and buying homes are really motivated to do so. So if you can kind of get inside the head of the person who's on the other end of the deal, it might give you some strategies and ideas about how to compel them to buy your home specifically. Another thing that's really important are counteroffers. Sometimes people lowball, and that's just how it is in real estate. A lot of people are not educated, their agents are not doing their job in educating their buyer clients about what's realistic, what's a good offer, what's insulting. And so, even if you get an offer that you're just like, absolutely not, we're not even on the same field, never mind the same game, I think it's always worthwhile to submit a counteroffer if you don't have another better offer waiting. I think you should put something in writing because you never know what's going to happen, where it's going to land. Perhaps with an actual counteroffer in writing, the other agent can say, hey, look, this is what I meant when I said that this price was insulting, but now we have an opportunity to come back with another offer. So I can't encourage this enough. Always write a counteroffer if you do not have another offer waiting for you. Another thing that your agent should be doing if they're listing your home is leveraging multiple offers. So once you start getting multiple offers coming in, don't just take the highest one. Have your agent call all of the other agents and say, hey, you're up against multiple offers. I can't tell you exactly what they are, but now is the time for you to submit your highest and best. And that may compel them to give you a higher price. And you never know. If you do that a few times, maybe you'll end up with a bigger bang for your buck. All right, another area for negotiating is on the contingencies. You can be strategic with your timelines for these, as well as the financials that are part of these contingencies. If you didn't know, in the state of Nevada, our main contingencies are the home inspection, the appraisal, and the financing, meaning the ability for a buyer to get financing or not. So within that, each one of those has their own timelines and kind of specifics. Make sure your agent is very skilled at what those are, how they work, and how to get you a better deal throughout each piece of that part of the transaction. The closing date is another way that you could maybe be a little bit flexible and perhaps leverage a better deal overall. Sometimes buyers need a longer escrow or a shorter escrow, but either way, if you're able to be flexible, that might entice a buyer to choose your listing over another. No matter what's happening in negotiations, just make sure that your agent is effectively communicating on your behalf. Nothing is more frustrating than being in the middle of an escrow and not being able to get answers from people. So just make sure that whoever you choose to list your home is very skilled at communicating with the other party. As always, if you guys have any further questions about listing your home or anything involved in the real estate process or real estate here in our Reno Sparks, Northern Nevada housing market, I'm your girl. Go ahead and book a free call with me. There's a link to do that in the description box below. It's no obligation. It's just an opportunity for us to connect, get your questions answered, and see if we might be a good fit to work together. And if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. I put out new videos every single week about the Reno Sparks lifestyle, the Northern Nevada housing market, and of course, all things related to buying and selling real estate. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.